What's up guys, my name is ENSFERRERO and welcome back to a new video. So today on this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the YouTube cinematic universe and explain my side of my story. If you guys are new here, don't forget to subscribe to join the Ferrero Nation, hit that bell, and leave a meaningful comment down below. You guys are probably asking me a lot of questions. What is this YouTube cinematic universe? The YouTube cinematic universe is where we create our stories, make it more cinematic, and make our writing better. The best part is we can develop our own characters and create a better storyline. That way the story can make all sense at the beginning and into the end of the YCU. Pretty cool, huh? I call it the YCU because it's kind of like the MCU, but it's really better, to be honest with you. How I came up with the name? Well, I didn't call that name. One of my YouTube friends actually named that universe. During that time in November of last year, MJ Adventure 12, aka RL Spritless Strike's brother, actually came up with my universe name when they were filming their last scene from my Plotagon series finale. And when Max named the YouTube Cinematic Universe, I thought it was the best name that he ever came up with. Like, that was the answer that I've been looking for all these years. And now, the YCU will be expanded. Roman and Max are currently working on the Multiverse Paradox movie, and Brad is taking a break from making movies. He made 3 films, and his movies are the best. But today, guys, I just want to explain to you of my story. 3 years ago, I made a Plotagon series, very animated, and there are 10 episodes of my Plotagon series. And episode 10 is one of my best episodes that I ever created because it just explains my villain's origin story. But I want to tell you guys from the beginning to where we at right now. So anyways, let's get started of telling my story of the YCU. My story began on June 12, 2018. I created my first Plotagon video on my phone, but then I decided to upload it on my YouTube channel and on the Plotagon community. After I posted a video about it, I accidentally got sucked into the breach and got teleported into the Plotagon world. I was transformed into the animated character, and not only that, I was in an animated world. After realizing this, I decided to go into the restaurant, but the woman was waving at me. I was confused for a second, but I proceeded to talk to her. The woman introduces herself. Her name was Jessica, and she was going to teach me everything about Plotagon. I was so excited to learn everything from Plotagon because I was always curious to find out how the Plotagon video will go. Jessica taught me to choose a scene, create a character, add the dialogue, record my character's voice, and finally put some sound effects and music. I began to realize that Plotagon is recording me, and I found out that Jessica was the one that sent me to the Plotagon world. The only reason why she sent me to the Plotagon world is because she's been watching my YouTube videos for a long time ever since I started my YouTube channel back in 2015. She wanted to meet me in person so that she can teach me everything about Plotagon. I accept her apology, said goodbye to her, and returned home. I returned to the Plotagon world once again, this time to make a video with Jack Robinson. After this, I decided to go back home and take a break from YouTube and Plotagon. During my break from YouTube and Plotagon, I decided to come back and I made a depression video. And not only that, I made the next video that I was going to be moving to LA with my parents and get closer to my sister. After I disappeared for 5 months, I decided to build a device to create a breach to teleport me into the Plotagon world, the same way that Jessica teleported me into Plotagon. I returned to Plotagon for the first time after 5 months, and it seems that Plotagon has changed quite a lot since I left. I went to the restaurant again and I saw Jessica. I told her I built the same device that she teleported me into the Plotagon world. But Jessica told me some important news. After I left, everybody in the Plotagon world has been looking for me. I was completely shocked about this, and she also told me that I'm the kid that disappeared all those months ago. That is until I met someone. This guy's name is Samir, and Jessica sent him to protect me. But I told Samir that he doesn't know anything about me, but unfortunately, he knows. So I decided to gain his trust, and he took me to a safe place where I have plenty of time to figure it out. But I wasn't having any of it. I immediately opened up a breach, returned home, and finally rest. I woke up the next day, and turns out I'm somehow in the Plotagon world. So I made a new promise to say goodbye to everybody before I return home. I went to the manager's office to see Samir, but he wasn't there. All of a sudden, someone was standing behind the door. I quickly hid behind the desk. Then I heard a familiar voice. It was Leslie. She was looking for me because she realized that I left Plotagon. When she was about to head to her class, I decided to reveal myself. She was so happy to see me. She thought that I was dead, but I've been fine all along. Leslie told me ever since I left, the Plotagon community exploded during Halloween. After it exploded, some families and friends got caught in the fire and they were all dead. She also told me that Plotagon will no longer host movies in January of 2019. I was very sad to hear about this, but Leslie encouraged me to go outside and get some fresh air. I did just that until I was hungry. So I decided to stop by at the cafe until I saw Samir talking with someone that I haven't met before. The guy that Samir was talking to was Scott. He told me that he was a huge fan of my videos, and he also told me that Jessica showed him my YouTube channel back in 2015. Scott's been worried about me ever since I took a break on YouTube and on Plotagon, but at the same time, his family and his friends were killed because of the Plotagon community explosion. I encouraged him that it won't happen the same way twice. We ate our food together, and Scott told me to meet one of his teachers. So I agreed with him, and he told me to meet him at a street corner at 8 p.m. I went into the restaurant to talk with Jessica once again, and I was feeling really passionate about my goal to reach 1,000 subscribers. But Jessica gave me the perfect advice that would change my life forever.
If a hater says, "Look man, I don't think you can do this," just don't listen to them. Don't let the haters take you down. You have to believe in yourself and make your choices. Decide who you are and want to become. This world doesn't like those who are different, Jonathan. Don't let anyone tell you who you should be. You have to believe in your heart that you can achieve anything you want. And someday, you will become famous all over the world. Even if you think about your future dreams and goals, nothing is black and white, including your future. Embrace the gray.
Her advice gave me confidence to believe in myself and never give up again. After I spent a few hours in my room, I decided to go outside to get some fresh air. And when I found the secret door, I opened it, and there was this lab that I haven't seen before. I met a man named Emmett Swanson, and he was a scientist. Emmett was really excited to finally meet me. He told me that he's been working on some experiments, including the time machine. I was so amazed by his time machine. Although I would really love to try it, I told him that I have some other things to do. He completely understood, and I left his lab and get prepared to meet one of Scott's teachers. During that beautiful sunset, I realized that I was late for Emmett's demonstration, but he told me that I was just in time, and so he put me in the time machine and said it'd be 2 hours into the future. After Swanson sending me 2 hours into the future, he begins to steal my creativity power and transfer it into himself. After that, he got struck by red lightning and gets connected to the negative speed force. When I came back, I was feeling really weak. Emmett patted me in the shoulder and I was completely fine. But when he patted me on the shoulder, he transferred some of his negative speed force into me. After I was healed, Emmett demonstrates his experiments. When the fireworks transformed into the stars, it was very beautiful. I asked Emmett why can't he leave his lab. He told me that he created an experiment for a teleportation machine, But after it failed, the Plotagon people decided to ban him from Plotagon City, and he never came out of his lab ever since. I encouraged Emmett that he is not a fool and that he can be the hero. He appreciated my thoughts, but my alarm went off and I said goodbye to Emmett as I get prepared for a special interview. I finally meet up with Scott at Joe's Corner, and he led me to this door which will allow me to get an interview with Mr. Hernandez. I told him the little background story of myself, and I told him the same promise that I had to say goodbye to everybody before I return home. After I finished the interview with Mr. Hernandez, I met one of Scott's other teachers named Mrs. Green. She told me to protect her people and to use Plotagon well. I accepted her advice, and I was about to head off to bed to get prepared to leave the next day. Before I could leave, I went to check on Emmett to see what he's doing. I went to his lab and he wasn't there. I checked on his computer, and it turns out he's been using me the whole time. After finding out the truth about Emmett Swanson, he was laughing straight in my face, and I was shocked and angry. He told me that he became more powerful than me and he used me like a toy ever since the day we met. After he told me his true plan, we became arch enemies and we had a big fight. I lost to him, and at the end, he hit me in the head so hard it costed me to lose memories of him forever. I woke up the next day and I found out that I still remember everything except for Emmett Swanson. I decided to get some rest and get prepared to leave Plotagon tomorrow. Before I was about to leave, I decided to tell my Plotagon friends the truth about me moving into LA with my parents. I emotionally said goodbye to them, including my teacher, as I opened up the breach with my remote device and left. I finally returned home and decided to celebrate Christmas with my parents and get prepared to finally move to LA. 2 months later, after my disappearance, I decided to return back to the Plotagon world once again, so I decided to open up a breach and enter through it. But this time, the breach decided to take me 1 month into the future, and I was finally back in the Plotagon world. Since I was back in the Plotagon world, I decided to bring a friend of mine, and my YouTube friend was Brad Gaming 2000, so I decided to recruit him into the Plotagon world and teach him everything I know about Plotagon. While I was beginning to teach him everything about Plotagon, I decided to take him to the library and learn the secrets about Emmett Swanson, but it turns out that it was the fake book about Emmett Swanson. After we realized his secrets, I decided to leave Brad with Leslie to continue teach him everything about Plotagon while I go to the manager's office to find out where Emmett Swanson is. While I was at the elevator, I met one of the zombie survivors, Bug Andrews, and he told me that if I was the kid that disappeared 2 months ago. I said yes, but I did not tell him that the breach actually took me 1 month into the future in order to get back into the Plotagon world. I showed Bug Andrews my multiverse device, and he upgraded to a tracking software now, so that way I can find some traces of Emmett Swanson and some mini treasures in Plotagon. I returned back to the manager's office and I met one of the Plotagon robots that I haven't seen before. The robot's name was Proxy, and he revealed to me that he was the butler of Emmett Swanson, and he also told me the other story that he witnessed of Emmett Swanson and his wife Mary Granger getting a divorce. I feel bad for Proxy and I decided to become his friend. After a long day in Plotagon, I decided to take a rest, knowing that I will find some information about Emmett Swanson. After 3 months of finding where Emmett Swanson is, Proxy tells me that Swanson hasn't been seen since cause he doesn't know that I'm really back, so I decided to find some more information about Swanson, and turns out I found his location and he is basically watching the city burn. I told Proxy about this, and he tells me to go see my friends, but more importantly, he has to take me to the Plotagon living room to watch the news. I went to the Plotagon living room with Proxy and I told him to turn the TV on. While I'm watching the news, I found out that I've been gone on Plotagon for 7 months. After realizing this, I decided to take the risk to reveal myself and to tell everyone that I'm back. I went to Joe's corner again, but at the same time I had flashbacks of when my journey actually began. After witnessing those flashbacks, I went ahead to the restaurant to find out if someone else was here. But a miracle happened. It was Jessica standing in front of me, and I was so shocked and happy to see her. I hugged her and I told her if Swanson took her, but she told me he didn't. She was right here the whole time. I told her that it has been 7 months since I left. I explained to her that I still can't remember who Emmett Swanson was. I asked her to help me and she agreed with me, but she gave me the task to travel through time to talk to my past self and give him a good advice. So I traveled back in time to 2018, and after my past self came out, I began to slow time and gave my past self a very good advice. I began to went back to my prison and went in to see my friend Brad's house to see how he's doing. But I realized something was terribly wrong. His house was caught on fire and Leslie is missing. I got Brad out of there and his house exploded. Brad told me that Swanson's henchmen took Leslie and they started a fire in his house. I feel sorry for him, but he said it's alright. I told Brad that we read the fake book about Emmett Swanson, so we decided to go back to the library to find the real book about Emmett Swanson. When we found the book, we decided to read it ourselves. Now, this is going to be the origin story of my villain Emmett Swanson, so let's just explain his story from here. In 1979, Emmett Swanson starts to peek around the library to find a book to read. After reading the book How to Be the Plotagon King, Emmett Swanson decides to start his career by taking over Plotagon. After his father built the city, he gave that passing to him, allowing Emmett to call Plotagon Town Plotagon City. After Emmett starts to take over Plotagon, he starts to hire his new henchmen, Jack and Eddie Kroc. He gave them the assignment to steal millions of dollars from the bank, and they were able to do so without ever being caught. After retrieving millions of dollars from the Plotagon bank, Emmett Swanson gives the assignment to Eddie Kroc to steal millions of dollars from every Plotagon bank, and he gave that assignment to Jack to retrieve the Plotagon androids and the Plotagon robot from the factory. As Jack entered the factory, he realizes that the factory was going to explode, so he quickly retrieves the androids and the robot before the factory exploded. After retrieving the androids and the robot, Jack lets Emmett Swanson introduce the androids and the robot. The androids' names were Walter and Amy, and they explained to Emmett that their home was destroyed, but he decided to give them a home and protect them at all costs. The Plotagon robot tells Emmett that he doesn't have a name, but Swanson decided to give the robot name Proxy, and from there, Proxy becomes Emmett Swanson's butler, and he tells Proxy that he will never leave his side. 1 year later, Emmett brought his first White House and built it his secret lab. He even built it a supercomputer that would transfer millions of dollars from the Plotagon banks. He also made everybody believe that he was winning a lot of lotteries, but that's how he justified it to himself. Emmett goes to the cafe to buy some food. While there, he meets a beautiful woman named Mary Granger. She tells them that she eats healthy food and that she is a reporter for Plotagon News. Emmett tells her that he is a millionaire and his parents got killed in a car accident. Mary feels sorry for him, but Emmett tells her it's alright. From that point on, they became great friends. That is until a few months later, Emmett asks Mary to be his girlfriend. She said yes, and they celebrated at Emmett's house. 3 years later, Emmett finally proposes to Mary, and they get married 2 days later. After 2 weeks of their marriage, Mary comes home from work, and she begins to find out about Swanson's secret. She also finds out that he hired his henchmen to steal millions of dollars from every Plotagon bank, and he lied to everybody about the lottery, including herself. Mary tells Proxy about this and that she wants to leave Plotagon because what Emmett did to her. He accepts her decision and she leaves Plotagon until she is able to return to confront Swanson. While Mary attempts to leave Plotagon, Emmett gets hired at Swanson Enterprises because he's always destined to work at his family's company, including his employees. In the year 2004, Mary comes back and finally confronts Swanson. Somehow, Mary's kids appeared and she tells Emmett that he is not the father. So they get divorced and Mary tells her kids that Emmett is getting executed. Her kids agree to this and the officer arrives to finally arrest Emmett Swanson. Mary reveals that the officer's name is Joseph Sanchez and that he is her new husband. Emmett begins to talk Mary, but Joseph got angry at him and starts to take him to prison. Emmett has been sent to jail for 15 years and sentenced to death. As 14 years go by, he begins to feel old and weak. So he starts to plan to escape without ever triggering the alarms. 6 months later, he became a scientist and invented a machine which made him young again. After he turned young again, he promises to make his new experiments until he is ready to reveal himself. After reading the book of Emmett Swanson, me and Brad decided to recruit one of my YouTube friends, Roman LaPlante, aka RL Sprintless Strike. In the alternate future, Roman begins to make a video about the multiverse, and in that timeline, me and Brad has still been disappeared and hasn't been seen since. Roman begins to explain my first disappearance in 2018 of that story that I just went over. He also explained to his subscribers that when I came back home from the Plotagon world, I came back without a trace. So when the same thing happened to me and Brad, this actually proves his theory that the multiverse is real after all. When the breach was opened in his room, he went to investigate it and he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He curiously puts his hand in the breach, but his left hand got stuck and he gets sucked into the breach as he disappears for a while. Max went to his brother's room to hand him the book about the multiverse, but he looks around to see if Roman is there. He thinks that he is pranking him, so he leaves the book there and leaves his room until he comes back. Roman gets teleported into the Plotagon world for the first time, and he finally meets me and Brad in person, but in the animated world, that is. A man with the green tie starts yelling at us for no reason, but we told that guy to calm down. But he was just kidding. He told us the story of when he told these jokes to people, they were really offended by him and they were really assaulted. He felt really bad for them, so he said sorry to us, but we forgiven him at the end. Steve begins to recognize who I was, and I told him that it's really me. He was excited for my return in Plotagon, and I also gave him the other news about Emmett Swanson. Steve tries to encourage me to save the Plotagon world and stop Swanson for good. I let Steve introduce my friends, and I told him that they're YouTubers, just like me. The whole crew show up, including Buck Andrews. I was so excited to see Buck again after 4 months. I told him the exact same story about Emmett Swanson, and he was really shocked about it. I told my friends that I have to make a plan to meet Tara Conlon and face Swanson alone. Brad and Roman wanted to come with me to stop Swanson together, but I told them that it would be dangerous, and if Swanson kidnapped them, then it would be my fault. Buck told me that Tara's parents were killed by zombies, but when she grew up to be a zombie hunter, she was killing zombies, which makes her angry and very aggressive. Buck motivated me to give Tara positive emotions, restore her hope and her faith. While Brad and the others went on to carry the plan, Roman and I decided to talk alone. Roman begins to talk to me about his adventures with Grandpa. When he and Grandpa robbed the bank, they found the treasure box and they have discovered the blue crystal. Roman somehow opened the book and they get teleported into the blue dimension. Roman's doppelganger was created after they opened the book with the blue crystal. He tells them what to do after he sent them home with the snap of his fingers. I began to take Roman to the Plotagon Cafe to meet one of my great friends of mine, Samir. I told Samir that I've been gone for a while, but I'd also told him the situation about Emmett Swanson. He seems to be getting worried that we are in trouble, but I told him that I wanted him someone to meet. I wanted Samir to meet Roman, and so they met for the first time, and I told Samir to train Roman and to teach him everything about Plotagon. Samir agreed with me, and that's how he made a decision to teach Roman everything about Plotagon until he can join me in the final battle of defeating Emmett Swanson. And so I left Roman with Samir as I continue my quest to find Tara Conlon and speak to her. This zombie hideout looks like it has been abandoned for years or hasn't been used. So I begin to find Tara until she somehow jump scares me. She was not really happy to see me, but I wanted to talk to her. She did not care of what I was going to do. She begins to tell me of all the times that I left Plotagon and left the city to shreds. She begins to blame me about everything, including leaving them, not caring about them, all a bunch of nasty things. I convinced her that you can't blame me for the crimes that I have not committed, but I also gave her the advice to believe in yourself and never give in to your negativity. Tara feels so bad that she didn't believe me and that she was sorry for blaming me for no other reason. I accepted her apology and I've forgiven her. I told her the news about Emmett Swanson and she warns me that he is too powerful. But I told her with bravery and courage that I will stop him once and for all. Before I begin to leave, Tara begins to explain to me about something. She not only knows about me, but she also knows about my father. She tells me great things about my dad, including my mother. She was happy that my parents was able to raise me as their son, and God gave my dad the best gift ever, and that was me. I went on to find Emmett Swanson, but he wasn't coming out, so I decided to call him out until I heard a familiar voice. It was my old character, Kovalizer Middelskov. He has been held hostage by Emmett Swanson. Swanson was about to kill him, but I arrived just in time to confront him. Kovalizer was so shocked to see me, but I told him everything was going to be okay, so I surrendered myself to Swanson in order to save Kovalizer's life. I get captured, and Swanson begins to torture me as he tells me that we were friends. He begins to jog my memory by choking me as I'm having flashbacks of our first fight together. He starts to torture me one last time before I was suffering even more. I woke up from my little coma and I begin to witness those memories of everything that happened between me and Swanson's friendship. After witnessing those memories, I begin to blame myself for becoming friends with him. I even blame myself that I was a fool and being manipulated by him. Suddenly, I felt this lightning coursing through me and I began to pass out again. This time, I began to see the white background all around me until I met the Elder Gods. The Elder Gods were the protectors of the universe, keeping time and space itself safe. They have chosen me to be their champion, to use my courage to lift the darkness from the earth. I wasn't sure that I can do this, but they believed in me. So I began to think back of all the good times that I had with my family and my friends. My love for my friends and family gave me the strength, hope, faith, and the confidence by never giving up. The Elder Gods were so proud of me for believing in myself and letting go of the bad memories that happened to me in the past. They let me meet my Lord and Savior, Jesus. I was so shocked and happy to see him, and I found out that he was working with the Elder Gods this whole time. They give him a new power, which means he's my new guide of the Speed Force. Before they gave me new powers, he once told me, "With great power comes great responsibility." I started to feel my faith flowing within me. I shook his hand and received my powers for the first time. I became the god of superhero. My powers were combined with Superman, The Flash, Thor, Vibe, and Raiden. My powers were finally connected to the Speed Force. After I received my powers, the Elder Gods sent me back to the Plotagon world to continue my journey. When I came back, I met one of the greatest characters I've ever worked with on my channel, Jack Robertson. I never thought I would see him again, but he was with me the whole time until I got to my breaking point. I told Jack everything I went through with Emmett Swanson and all the years that I've suffered because of him, but he encouraged me. to use my power to do what anything needs necessary. I received enough confidence to protect the ones I love and keep my friends safe. While me and Jack were heading back to where we planned, Swanson begins to torture his victims, including Leslie. Leslie tells Swanson to let them go, but he refused. Leslie tells Swanson that I will stop him and save Plotagon, but Swanson taunts her like all the others. Some people stood up to him, and Swanson was getting tired of this. He was about to kill them, but Brad saved the day. He punches Swanson and gets Leslie, Scott, and the others out of there. And Swanson was really angry at Brad. He really wants to make Brad and me pay for our treachery. We came back to the water cooler and our plan was successful. I began to tell all of my friends about me and Swanson 3 years ago, and they were shocked and they felt bad for me at the same time. Buck said to me that Swanson will pay for what he has done to me. And I said he will, but we have to be smart about it. Brad told me and Roman that they wanted to see the 4 of us. We proceeded to meet up with Jessica and Samir, and not only that, Leslie and Scott were there too. They were both so happy to see me again after all this time. They noticed that I was really alive and well. I was really happy to see them too after 7 months because I really missed them so much. Leslie meets up with Jack and Kovalizer again, and once again, Kovalizer makes her laugh with his joke and she was having a great time. Leslie made a new plan to let Samir advise Roman while Leslie advises Brad, and finally lets Jessica advise me. I agreed to her plan and a discussion began. Leslie and Samir starts to advise Roman and Brad to help me fight in the final battle with Emmett Swanson to save the Plotagon world. Meanwhile, Jessica tells me how my friends will always be at my side, and that she also tells me that my family makes me strong and that I'm the only one that can lift the darkness from the earth. This gives me so much happiness. Not only is she my teacher, but also a true friend. After getting some advice from Jessica, Leslie, and Samir, I decided to share my powers with my friends, and Brad became the god of thunder and fire, and Roman became the god of peace and bravery. Jack and Kovalizer can still help us out in the final battle of Emmett Swanson and to save the Plotagon world, not as our assistants, but as our friends. Me and my friend stopped by at Joe's corner. I contacted Tara to give her the instructions to stop the demon thugs and free the zombies from being mind-controlled by Emmett Swanson. Tara and her gang were able to defeat the demon thugs and get the zombies out of Swanson's mind control. I told Tara that me and my friends are in Swanson's position and we're about to go to his lair to stop him once and for all. I told my friends that I'm going in, but I also tell Brad that I may not need help now, but later I'll give them the signal. Meanwhile in his lair, Emmett begins to think back of when he sent me 2 hours into the future, stole my creativity power, and got his new powers from the negative speed force storm. I went to Swanson's lair. He activates the machine and turns on the computer to target 2 worlds at the same time. I confronted Emmett Swanson and he told me his true plan, not only to destroy Plotagon, but he wants to destroy the real world. I was so angry at him, but he told me that it was all part of his plan all along. Me and Swanson had a huge fight and I lost to him again, feeling powerless to stop him. When he was about to destroy Plotagon and my world, my friends arrived just in time to help me stop Swanson and put an end to his plan by destroying his machine to save Plotagon and the real world from ever getting destroyed. Emmett Swanson starts to turn old and weak again, and I told him that he lost. He said that he will be coming back, but I told him that I'll be ready for him. He told me one last thing, that we had a great time sharing his experiments to me. I also agreed that I had a great time too, but he stabbed himself in his stomach only to leave the scar to remind me the good times that we had together. My friends congratulated me by saving Plotagon and destroying Swanson's machine. We all went to an interview with Mr. Hernandez and everything was great. We told him everything of what happened with Emmett Swanson, and we told him everything about ourselves, including me, Brad, Roman, Jack, and Corvalizer. The news also reported this today, and the new host of Plotagon News, Ernesto Rodriguez, also congratulated me by saving Plotagon and my world from ever getting destroyed. But there was one final step that I have to do, and that was to make my real announcement at the Plotagon Theater performance. I invited all my friends there until I meet one of the mayor's agents, Wayne. First I thought it was like from Batman, but that was just an Easter egg. As Wayne introduces to the crowd, he announces me to come to the stage to make my real announcement. I told everyone that I was retiring from Plotagon and moving back to Florida. My parents and I were gonna be living in Florida for one last year until we moved to somewhere else. I started to meet Mary Granger's kids, Emma and Griffin, at the campfire. They told me that their mother passed away from a heart attack. I said sorry about their mother, but they told me it's alright. They heard about me retiring from Plotagon and moving back to Florida. They also gave me a great advice to always take your time and never ever rush. I agreed with their advice and started to say goodbye to Tara, Buck, and my robot friend, Proxy. I told Corvalizer and Jack if they were coming, but they preferred to stay in Plotagon for 2 more years until they are ready to return back to the real world. Me and the boys returned to Joe's Corner where my journey began. Roman said goodbye to Samir, while Leslie gives a big huge hug to Brad after saving her, Scott, and the others from Swanson. Jessica tells me what would I do now that Plotagon and my world is safe. I told her that the blood that flows through me lifted his curse. It would be best for me if I were to disappear Plotagon forever, but I also told her that we will meet again. Jessica and Samir starts to head up with the others to celebrate my victory. Brad begins to tell us his secret that he used the Infinity Stones to wipe half of YouTube because he only wanted more views and more subscribers. But I also told him to never turn to the dark side, and for only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Roman told us a secret that he was trying to touch the elf because he was watching him the whole time and he couldn't stand it anymore. When Max was holding Henry, he touched him, he took away his magic, and he went back to the North Pole to recover for a year until Thanksgiving. He realized his mistake and he shouldn't have done that in the first place. But I gave Roman the advice of no matter what you did in the past, you'll always find a way to forgive yourself for the actions you did to the elf. I told Roman and Brad my secret of when I used to spend time with my old characters at the campfire. A triangle man with a black hat and a black tie had the Infinity Stones. He snapped his fingers and erased my old characters from existence. I was lonely without them and I was feeling such pain. I couldn't move on, so I decided to create new characters to make me feel better. But I was wrong. Roman told me that it was my fear that kept me that way. He gave me the great advice to be there for my family and my characters if things ever go wrong. I appreciated his advice and we all started to go back home. But what happened to Emmett Swanson the next day? Well, you're about to find out. After 15 years in prison, Emmett Swanson gets executed by none other than Officer Chief Joseph Sanchez himself. Joseph was really happy that he is free from him, but Emmett's story doesn't end there. Swanson ends up in the negative Speed Force and he starts to plan to take over my body and regain his strength. Now let's continue to finish off my story of the YCU. Brad returns home on early 2019. As he returns home, he starts to have visions of the Scarecrow, and he wants the balance to be restored again, so he grabs the Infinity Gauntlet and snaps his fingers. Roman returns home to his original time the day before Thanksgiving. His brother Max appears and tells him where has he been. Roman begins to explain to Max and Grandpa about everything that happened in the Plotagon world, including Emmett Swanson. They don't believe him, but Roman shows them proof that he was actually there as an animated character. Grandpa couldn't believe this, but he starts to realize that there are now infinite Earths of the multiverse. Max begins to think that I'm a very good guy and a great leader, and if I ever need help with something, they'll be there, including Grandpa. Max tells Roman if I'm gonna be alright after defeating Emmett Swanson. Roman ensures Max that I'll be okay. It's just that I've been going through some tough times like moving back to Florida, but he tells Max that I'm a tough guy and that he's sure that I'll be 100% okay. Grandpa agrees with Roman and then hands up to cook something for dinner. Max and Roman begin to investigate Grandpa to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. I finally returned home back to my original time. It turns out I'm outside of the unknown house and something was telling me that I'm not in LA anymore. So I started to open up a breach and finally returned back to LA to start my normal life. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed my explanation about the YouTube cinematic universe. It took me a couple of weeks to edit this video, but now that I'm finally done, I can now move on to the next big step. If you guys want to check out my Plotagon series and the YouTube cinematic universe, those playlist links will be in the description below. And also subscribe to my friend's channel, those links will be linked down below also. So right now I am still working on my Plotagon series prequel, and I've been working on it for almost 6 months now. And I'm still in the final chapter of the prequel, so I'm trying to finish up my dad's story so I can get to the part where Purgatory does really crazy stuff. So you eventually see what Purgatory is really up to in the prequel when it comes out, so be on the lookout. And by the way, as you can see behind me, this is my new soundproof wall that me and my dad installed. Shout out to my dad once again for helping me out setting up this wall right here. I am now happy to have my soundproof wall once again from my YouTube studio, and this soundproof wall has 6 panels, and my old soundproof wall used to have 12 panels. You know, time flies by and I ended up getting this soundproof wall, which turns out really well. So in the next video, I'm going to be working on setting up my YouTube studio part 2, so be on the lookout also for that too, because you never know that I may finish it or not. But I'm definitely going to finish up my YouTube studio part 2 and finally finish the prequel this month, and I'll be able to film my last scene for the prequel and live stream it, so that way y'all can see how it's really done. So anyways guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe today to become a ENSFERRERO member, and I will see you guys next time.